This is the study we are going to analyze. Haplotypes point to a mosaic origin of modern human diversity. It's a study made globally on 5 continents. This study, the title, suggests that humans originated on several continents. So in some other studies that study Africa, they speak about multi-regional origin. So talking about multi-regional in Africa is an underestimation because it happens globally. The first in row, the first line, haplotype. Haplotype is the study of the whole genome, which has close to 300 million alleles. So it's a very complex study. The study of the haplotypes is a very complex study because of the enormous amount of alleles to be studied. But claiming out of Africa and claiming that Africa is multi-regional, origins in several regions, is an underestimation, is an underreporting because it's over at least 5 continents, the ones that are studied. And the first origin is in the Americas. So the frequency of this haplotype is close to 50%. And in Africa, for instance, it's under 10% the frequency of this group. So this indicates an American origin and not an African origin, just because of the first haplotype, the oldest, because this is a timeline from oldest to newest. B006 is associated with Denisovans, Neanderthals. Neanderthals are at least 600,000 years old. So this date, the period of this haplotype, is at least 600,000 years ago. The best scientific tool to define the ancestor of all humans are the ancestral markers. There are several, 10 or much more than 10. All 10 or much more point to the Americas as the origin of all humans. And we see that is confirmed by the first line haplotype, over 600,000 years old. We can see it's not out of Africa. Also because Asia and Europe have a higher frequency than Africa. So this could be a spillover from Americas to the east to Africa, and a spillover to the west to Asia, and again a spillover from the Americas to the east to Europe. So this is a world map. These are the continents studied: South America, North America, Africa, Europe, Middle East, Asia, and Indonesia and Papua New Guinea. So first remark, Africa had 5 populations researched. It's a massive continent. Europe has 4. And Indonesia and Papua New Guinea has a large number. So knowing that the ancestral markers point to the Americas, and especially to South America, to be the origin of all humans, this is an underrepresentation. It's the people, the group that is studied is the Caritiana, but we consider this an underrepresentation. So these are 4 random haplotypes, and B006, associated to Neanderthal and the Denisovans, was the first line after the ancestor. And a remark, the difference with the ancestor is only 4 alleles, of over 200, close to 300 million alleles. So the ancestor and B006, or Denisovans and Neanderthals, are almost identical. And it started out in the Americas, and you see that this corresponds with what you see on the map. Unfortunately, South America is only represented by one group. Otherwise, you would see more of them, but this is amongst the biggest. They are the biggest in Americas. The only place that comes close is in Spain, and I suppose these are the Basques, which, by the way, we claim to be out of Americans, which is more or less confirmed by what you see here. In the region of the Basques are mines that presented fossils of Neanderthals. So that also fits with what we see here. So you see that Africa, this is a variation. I cannot explain right now what type of a variation, but it's added. And if it was not for this variation, there was no B006. There was no first line in Africa. So it clearly is out of Americas, and it clearly is not out of Africa, which all ancestral markers already confirmed for us. So the next in the timeline is B002. We see that B002 is this time very low in the Americas, reaches the highest frequencies in Indonesia and Papua New Guinea, which is down the Austronesian expansion, which is down the currents. So we claim here that B006 or the new group migrated, drifted to Indonesia and Papua New Guinea, and also following the Austronesian expansion to Africa. So this fits, and it doesn't change that the ancestral markers point to the Americas, and it doesn't change that the first line was out of Americas. It's just presented as a second line. The third line, which is very close, is B004. But before we go there, we have a better look at B002. So this is the world map with haplotype B002 that you can see has high frequencies in Africa, but that is after adding variants to it. The other colors, in all of the places, only one variant is considered. In Africa, three variants are considered. So it's not really comparable. If you go ahead with looking only at the red variant, then the frequencies in Africa again are very low. Almost absent, only 1/3, only half. So that changes quite the outcome. So B002 doesn't really come out of Africa. In fact, everything indicates that it comes out of Indonesia and Papua New Guinea. And the rest is received in. And the Austronesian expansion goes this way to Africa, Madagascar, etc., South Africa, and maybe around the corner, and could have delivered this much lower frequencies of that one variant that we see here. After B002, which is questionable, because in the case of Africa, several variants are considered, while on the other continents only one variant is considered. After that, we have several haplotypes that never get out of Africa. So there is no out of Africa. They confirm that at least in this period, there was no out of Africa. This is a clear out of Americas, and this is a questionable out of Africa and a dominantly out of Indonesia and Papua New Guinea. So this is in disfavor of out of Africa. And for all the rest, never a group is dominant in Africa. So this first part is dominantly out of Americas. The one relatively dominant out of Africa, still less than out of Indonesia, is questionable because 3 variants were considered, while in the other continents only 1 variant was considered. This is clearly not out of Africa. Whatever appears here, not even very high frequencies, doesn't get out of Africa. So, and here again, never Africa is dominant, and whenever there's presence, there's much more presence in the other continents. So all haplotypes of all the world confirm insignificance of out of Africa and significance of Americas, and in second instance of Indonesia and Papua New Guinea, in third instance Asia, and probably in fourth instance Europe, and apparently in last instance Africa.